Appearing confused, Senator Dianne Feinstein was directed to, quote, just say aye during a Senate Appropriations Committee markup of bills Thursday. The cameras in the room capture the awkward moment. Let's watch.
I would like to support a yes vote on this. It provides $823 billion. That's an increase of $26 billion for the Department of Defense. And it funds priorities submitted.
Yeah, just say aye.
Okay, just aye.
The committee's chair, Senator Patty Murray, nudged her to just cast her vote instead of explaining her decision.
Questions have been swirling surrounding the health and fitness of the 90-year-old California senator and whether she should continue in her post. Meanwhile, Google searches for the term gerontocracy, which means oligarchical rule by the elderly, went through the roof after Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell seemingly froze during a press conference Wednesday. Currently, our Congress is the oldest in our history.
I take issue with the fact that they're discussing the prospect of cutting Social Security when Congress has essentially turned into taxpayer-funded nursing home. But we can't have a retirement. I find that absurd and terribly hypocritical.
This is just crazy. I mean, Dianne Feinstein, she's the oldest serving senator. She's 90 years old. She's had a slate of health issues over the past couple of years. She was off for about 3 months after a shingles diagnosis, and they actually hid the extent of her illness from the American people until she had returned to the Senate. It turned out she also had Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, which occurred when the shingles spread to her head and neck, and a case of encephalitis, which is swelling of the brain. And when asked about this recent moment in the Senate where Dianne Feinstein was basically puppeteered through her I vote, which should be like kind of illegal, right? Like you shouldn't be able to have someone whisper in your ear what you're supposed to say.
We didn't elect that guy.
Right. I didn't elect Dianne Feinstein staffer. Her staff said, trying to complete all of the appropriation bills before recess, the committee markup this morning was a little chaotic, constantly switching back and forth between statements, votes, and debate and the order of bills. The senator was preoccupied, didn't realize debate had just ended and a vote was called. She started to give a statement, was informed it was a vote, and then cast her vote. Two issues, obviously, with this statement. First of all, dealing with chaotic situations is sort of your job when you're in the Senate, and being able to shuffle different issues at the same time. And also, this is a pattern from Dianne Feinstein. She didn't know where she was when she got back to the Senate after that shingles incident, and has repeatedly given confusing statements to reporters, such as not even knowing that she had announced her retirement.
What do you think about this allegation here, gerontocracy, that we have a gerontocracy in the United States? I mean, the United Nations has already said that effectively the way our country works, it is an oligarchy. The people making the decisions, running the economy and government, are the elites. It's a small group of elites who pass their wealth down to their children, who oftentimes maintain that oligarchical rule. Very rarely do you have someone that's upwardly socially mobile enough in this country to join, the oligarchy, to join the ruling class just through hard work and determination, because the people who have their wealth, use it to accumulate more and more. I didn't consider the fact that a lot of these people are terribly old. And they're not really grooming predecessors like they used to. A lot of people, I think, that are children of these folks are more progressive than their parents, and they see the state of our country and they don't want to continue on the same path. But I think there is some credit to the fact that we have a gerontocracy in the country.
Yeah, I think that's right. And there's kind of a difficult conversation that I think we need to have about how to reform the system in terms of making sure that people who don't come from wealthy backgrounds are able to serve in Congress. At the same time, you don't want, I think a lot of people would say, like, no, I don't want Congress people to be paid more, right? Because they already don't do their jobs. Yeah. But at the same time, we have to consider that you're basically freezing out individuals who can't afford to rent an apartment in DC or who can't afford the cost of running a campaign. It's really prohibitively expensive for working class people to run for office. So I think as a package deal, we have to somehow get rid of all of the corruption, get rid of the ability for people like Nancy Pelosi to make absolute bank on insider trading, and just have the minimum salary of a congressperson be a little bit higher, and somehow get rid of the ability for them to trade in on all of this information that they're getting as they're serving.
Right. And I think what you're proposing is not impossible. The idea that we could have one large bill or a series of small bills that address the corruption we have. Let's talk about campaign finance. Let's pass some legislation to regulate that. Let's pass some legislation to have a better system of elections in our country so that working people have a more fair chance. Let's do something about the insane distribution of wealth in this country. Let's pass a series of bills. The only problem with that is that would take many hours of writing legislation. I'm not sure Dianne Feinstein could stay awake for it. So we have this weird chicken or the egg situation of what's going to catalyze the change. Our current Congress is many incapable, many unwilling to make this change. So what's it going to take? Because I think the general public would agree with both of us what we just said about what's necessary to change how government works in our country, how our democracy functions. Our members of Congress are not up for the task. Are we going to have to call another constitutional convention? That would be an absolute mess. But I'm not sure what it's going to take to have this change. Clearly something needs to change, even if it's just people realizing we have members of Congress that are so old and are in cognitive decline that they can't stay awake for the meeting they have where they have to cast votes, which is a very important part of their job, where there's cameras in the room. If anything, that's Dianne Feinstein at her very best.
Yeah, exactly. She's been ginned up for that moment. She's got her shots or whatever she needs to get going. She's got her Gatorade. She should be in there performing, and she can't even do the bare minimum. And specifically with Feinstein, her issues have been going on before that shingles diagnosis. There was a San Francisco Chronicle article that came out years ago. It cited 4 anonymous senators, including 3 Democrats, so her colleagues in the Senate, and a number of former staffers who said that she has been in cognitive decline for quite some time. Her memory is especially bad. She forgets people. She can't fulfill her responsibilities in Congress. And then when she finally had this shingles diagnosis and was out for 3 months, it was then that the Democratic establishment wanted to replace her on the Judiciary Committee so that they could get judges passed. None of this would have been an issue if you had taken care of the problem when it first presented itself and told this woman to retire and get out of Dodge when she first started suffering her mental health decline. And instead they waited until it was suddenly an issue for their ability to confirm judges.
And we have Nancy Pelosi's daughter, right, pushing Dianne Feinstein around in a wheelchair. That legacy of American politics in the Pelosi family has been there for some time. Pelosi's first job was working for the Democratic Party. Her father was in politics deeply with the Democratic Party, and that's all she's ever known. And now her daughter pushing around Dianne Feinstein in a wheelchair just really paints the picture that Dianne Feinstein's role is to cast ballots, cast her votes on the floor in line with the party.
Yeah, she's a rubber stamp.
Exactly. Would it be different if someone else who was an establishment candidate was doing her job? Probably not. Like, the effect on American politics would be the same. That is concerning. That's the stronghold of two-party politics in the country, that the Democratic establishment controls not only that district so much, but just our country and the people who vote with them so much. Members of Congress should be making decisions on a case-by-case basis based on the issue. They should be representing the people in their district, not just blindly voting in with the party. It's absolutely absurd to consider that if someone else was voted into the seat, would things really be that different?
Yeah, exactly. And that's precisely why Pelosi doesn't want Gavin Newsom to be able to appoint a successor for Dianne Feinstein, because she doesn't want a more progressive person in there that Gavin Newsom would apparently put in. And then there's this Mitch McConnell issue, right, where he suffered what appeared to be a mini stroke while giving a speech to reporters. He had this fall a while back at the former Trump hotel where he apparently hit his head quite hard and was in the hospital for a bit. And at that time, the Spectator reported that the colleagues of Mitch McConnell, the other Republicans in Senate leadership, were basically discussing a potential retirement. And Mitch McConnell's team pushed back so hard on that report, which was not even us saying he was going to retire. It was saying that his colleagues were concerned about it and were discussing an exit plan and a replacement strategy. And they freaked out. They immediately sent Mitch McConnell back to the Senate so he could save face and appear to be walking around and lively. And then, lo and behold, there's this issue during a press conference.
Yeah, he didn't even acknowledge it happened. He was just like, I'm fine. It's like,
Are you fine?
Are you fine? I guess we'll find out. Hopefully we hear more about what happened with Mitch McConnell, because everyone's going to keep asking. You can't just have a situation like that happen and just, I'm fine, your way out of it.
No, unacceptable. We'll be back with more Rising after this.